Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World Weekly Lecture. I'm here this week with Justin Gordine, who's going to talk about how she's able to travel to a new city every month, all thanks to Pinterest. Welcome to the program, Justin.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Justin. I have to admit, I'm so excited to have you on here because I really don't know that much about Pinterest, and I'm sure that some of our listeners will not either. So I think we're going to get a great education today.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite platform out there, so I can't wait to introduce everyone to it.
Awesome. All right. Well, first, Justin, I'd love to hear about your background and how you got started as a digital nomad. And then also, how did you get started with Pinterest?
Yeah, so I was a nursing student, and it was actually my parents who told me that I should take a break from nursing school and go backpacking and see the world before I had all the student loan debt and a job and just life to go on with. So I took a gap year and went traveling, and that gap year has been 8 years now. Because once I started traveling, I just had no desire to stop. And it wasn't until about 2 years into my travels that I really started to run out of money because I did volunteering and stayed in hostels and traveled on the cheap. But I ran out of money eventually. And a friend actually said, "Why don't you start working online? Why don't you just offer services from your computer and then you can keep traveling and make money?" And that is kind of what fueled me to never end the gap year because then I was like, okay, well, now it doesn't have to end because I make money. So who needs school?
That's amazing. I think it's everybody's dream, actually. It's just like never end the travels and somehow be able to fund
Yeah.
them as you go. And so we'd love more people to be able to replicate these experiences. I also think it's cool your parents were the inspiration to take that break and get started. I don't hear that very often.
Yeah, I don't know if they would be as excited knowing if they knew it was never going to end when they sent me out the door, but I was definitely their most adventurous child. So I think they saw something in me that they wished they had done. So yeah, everyone's always like, "How do your parents feel?" And I'm like, they love it. They told me to go, so they can't be mad at me now.
Yeah, that's great. You can always fall back on that. All right, so
Yeah.
let's talk about a bit more about Pinterest itself. So, as you
Mhm.
said, about 2 years in, your friend was suggesting that you get into this money making on like ways to make money online. And so, were you already a Pinterest user at that point? Is Pinterest the first thing that you started doing? How did you figure out that you could make money from Pinterest?
So I actually got started as a virtual assistant, but working for travel bloggers. So I wrote blogs for travel bloggers and I helped them like post on Instagram. And one of the travel bloggers I worked with was like, "What's your experience with Pinterest?" And I was like, "Well, I use it to plan all my trips. I was using it all the time as a user. With throughout all of my travels, I had like a personal board for every trip I went on, what city I wanted to visit, how long, like all of the things to do." So I kind of explained this to her and I was like, "Yeah, I guess we could put your content on there. Like, I guess we could like make sure that the content people like me are pinning was your travel stuff." And so we just took it as an experiment for like a couple of months and we just thought, okay, we're just going to start putting all of your content under Pinterest and we're going to see what happens. And it worked. So then she sent me to another one of her friends who was also in the travel space. And so I really got my start basically because I was a traveler using Pinterest. I was able to then turn it around and make it so the travel bloggers who wanted their content out there were on Pinterest as well.
Okay, so you were putting up your pins on their travel blogs? Was that the experiment at the beginning?
No, so I'd just be creating pins for them. So like if they had a blog about like hiking in the Pacific Northwest, I'd take that, make a graphic, put it on Pinterest on their account, link it to the blog post. So I'd like log in and it basically was like Instagram, like helping them what I was doing with their Instagram, logging in and posting for them just on another platform.
Okay, see, you can see I'm a Pinterest newbie because as you were saying, I'm using it now, but just to like find cooking recipes or things
Mhm.
like that. And I'm just pinning other people's pins, but I actually wasn't thinking of you can create your own pins. Or do you have a
Yeah.
background in graphic design or did you already have some of those skills before you started on the Pinterest platform?
No, that was all just stuff that I learned on the fly. I've done a lot of online courses. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos. I've made a lot of really ugly pins as well. I look back at some of the stuff when I started and I'm like, oh, that was bad. That was not readable or that was not like user friendly, but it's all been a learning experience.
Okay, so I'm wondering, like, what are some of the features of the Pinterest platform itself that is different than, let's say, Instagram or TikTok, which some of the listeners might be more familiar with?
Yeah, so I always explain Pinterest as being like a platform for the for people's futures. Like we use Instagram in the present where we or and TikTok as well, where we're sharing like what's happening in our present, what we're doing this week. Our stories are all about what's happening on the day to day. Pinterest is more what we're going to do. So the way that people use it is for planning. So the way that I use it to help my clients is basically like what is your ideal audience going to be planning for in the next 6 months, in the next year, and how can we like leverage that? Because it's yeah, it's a platform where people go to look for something that's going to happen to their lives in the future versus inspiration for what's happening to their lives like now in the moment.
Okay, yeah, I haven't thought about it like that, but you're right. It was always something I wanted to do in the future that I was looking for, such as what I was going to cook tonight. Um,
Yeah.
what are some features on Pinterest that people may not be aware of? I know that you can pin things. I know you can make your own
Mhm.
boards. Are there like things such as statuses like Instagram has? I know that's a very present kind of thing, but what are some features that Pinterest has that we may not be aware of?
I would say the biggest feature that Pinterest has rolled out in the past couple of years is their idea pins. It's essentially their own take on like TikTok videos and Instagram reels. So it's their way of making Pinterest more present, like making it so you show your face more, making it a little bit more personal, making it so you kind of share a little bit of like who the creator is. Because Pinterest pins are very impersonal. You can go and look for something for dinner and literally find something you want on Pinterest, go to the recipe, make the recipe, and never actually learn who the creator is behind it. Because, you don't really see their face on Pinterest. You don't really associate them with who they are. So Pinterest has launched idea pins. And in my opinion, that's kind of their way to personalize the platform more, be a little bit more like trendy. Obviously, they want to keep up with platforms like TikTok. So it's all like really heavy video based, but it's something they've introduced along with doing Pinterest Lives, which aren't for all users yet. I think they're like super, super beta testing that. But that's another feature that will be coming out because they want people to treat it a little bit more like social media. Whereas what we do treat it as is like a search platform where we're like, what can we have for dinner? Or what's boho wedding ideas can we plan for and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I had no idea they were coming out with a Pinterest Live. Have you used that yet?
I haven't used it yet. I actually have not been not been invited to it yet. I always put my name up for all those beta things since I work on Pinterest full time. And I want to be able to test those sort of systems and new features for my clients, but I haven't been invited to it yet. So I'll be doing Pinterest lives as soon as I can. But yeah, as far as I can tell, they've only really released it to the really, really big users at the moment.
Okay. Now, if you were trying to convince someone to start using Pinterest instead of Instagram, or let's say in addition to Instagram or TikTok, why should people use Pinterest in addition to these other things? What's their target or what is their avatar user, let's say, on Pinterest compared to these other platforms?
So the biggest user on Pinterest, or the biggest thing to focus on when you're doing any sort of growing your business on Pinterest, is it's a huge money making platform. Pinterest user demographics have consistently been high income, mostly women in America. So it's a lot of like higher income moms, a lot of women. It's starting to be a bit more men, but it's always been a very high income platform. So Pinterest is really edging towards it becoming more of a shopping platform. So they've integrated with Shopify. You can now shop your favorite brands without ever leaving the Pinterest platform. And they're really pushing small brands. So if you have a small business where you have even just an online shop with a couple of, custom t-shirts that sort of fit with your brand, or if you sell any sort of digital products, Pinterest is really, really pushing people to become like shops within the Pinterest platform. So I think that one thing to really think about when you're growing your business is that there is money to be made on Pinterest, and how you can work that into your business, whether that's launching presets or an online shop that has a few like drop shipping t-shirts or hats or something, and being able to promote that on a platform like Pinterest.
Yeah, and like you said, it's all integrated into Shopify. Do they also have a connection with Etsy? Because this sounds like it really would align with the Etsy market as well.
Yeah, they did have a connection with Etsy, but I listened to a podcast earlier this year that Pinterest did that basically said they want to edge out Etsy. And ever since then, I think like their their Etsy connection doesn't seem that it seems to have been a bit more cut off. I can no longer link if one of my clients has an Etsy store, I can no longer link it to Pinterest. So I think like, Shopify's the way they're going. Like, yeah, they did kind of say like we'd like to, be better than Etsy. And Etsy was like, okay, well then bye. You're done using us. So anyway, yeah,
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's a shame you can no longer link because it does seem like a great marriage there of those two platforms.
yeah,
But also,
yeah,
yeah, your biggest rival. I could see that.
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
what would you suggest would be the steps that someone could take first if they're going from just someone who uses Pinterest to like look for the recipes or something like that? How could they start to step up their Pinterest game on their own account to really start to like promote their own presence, let's say? Let's say I started cooking and making my own recipes.
Yeah, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is clean up your profile so that you can make a lot of boards secret. So I basically hide everything that's personal. So if it's like, me planning for a future home that has nothing to do with what I want people to follow me through, so follow me for. So I just hide all of it. So I'd say like take your personal account, hide everything, and then create some new boards that highlight the content you're sharing. So think about like if you have like if you're going to do like a food blog or even a food YouTube and start sharing recipes, your Pinterest profile boards are going to basically be like little sections in people's recipe book. So you'll make a board for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you can also make a board for chicken, beef, and fish, and like create boards so that when people are searching for like easy dinners, your boards and your pins are going to come up for them because you've already organized the content for them. So they can walk through the grocery store with like 12 easy dinner ideas because you've already organized the board for them. And then, yeah, like it's all about getting those pins on there. So when you create a recipe and you hit publish, the first thing you should do is go and create 5 Pinterest pins dedicated to that recipe. So 5 so that they all look different, they all can like, catch someone's eye. And then over the next month, you just share those 5 pins for the one recipe. So it's like one a week. It doesn't have to be a lot. You just share like one a week just to warm up and just start pushing people towards that recipe. And then if you publish another recipe, you do the same thing again.
Great, great tips. I was thinking that like you brought to mind too, are there any platforms you can use out there where you schedule your pins? Like I know
Yeah,
Instagram provides.
yeah. So lately, I would just recommend actually scheduling directly in Pinterest. There's a tool called Tailwind, which has always been the sort of big Pinterest scheduler. But Pinterest is really developing their own scheduling app as well within the platform. So if you're just starting out and you're not quite ready to make any investments in tools and things like that, and it's just going to be you pinning like for your budding blog, I would just recommend scheduling directly in Pinterest. It's very easy to do. You can go and like create a pin, and then when you create the pin, it'll just give you the option to publish now or schedule for a later date. You can just click schedule for a later date and pick any date or time within a 2 week period.
Okay, great. Does Pinterest have
Yeah.
a premium service within its platform? Like I told you, I've only searched for different things. Okay, so everything is not paid. You can just schedule your
Yeah,
pins
you
and
can
no
do all
extra
of this for
cost.
free. Yeah.
That's
Yep.
amazing. I really hope that they
Yeah.
can start to get those revenues from ads and from Shopify integrations so that stays the case.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
You also mentioned making these 5 different pins and making them
Mhm.
stand out. Do you have any tips for helping them to stand out? For example, I know on YouTube, a lot of people are using the scared faces or they are using their faces to catch people's attention. What would you do on Pinterest?
I would say the most important thing on Pinterest is to make sure your text is really clear and readable because people are scrolling really fast. So I always recommend having like fun, bright colors that are going to stand off the page, making sure that you've got like really contrasting colors. So if your brand is all like really light colors and fancy fonts that are very cursivy, you need to forget that for Pinterest. You need to get some bold colors and very, very clear fonts to read because you really want your pin to almost pop off the page at people. Because yeah, when you search, you land on a page with like billions of dinner ideas, and you just sort of think, oh, what am I going to do now? There's too many choices. But if there's one that really stands off the page for you, really jumps out at you, that's definitely the way to go. I would say when it comes to using your face, as much as possible, definitely, because that's what Pinterest wants right now. They want to see the creator, they want the user and the creator to connect more. But it's a little bit hard with like all the niches. So I would focus mainly on just making sure you have very readable pins. Like make the fonts nice and big, make them very bright contrasting colors that look good together. And then as you can, like start to integrate your face more.
Fantastic. Wow. I'm getting excited for my own personal interests I've had that I never used Pinterest for. Yeah, I'm going to get this going. So I also read, like I heard from you that you also teach courses on Pinterest now. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so I have two Pinterest courses. One is a 5-day course that just literally takes you through 5 days. You get to do one sort of actionable step per day. And at the end of it, that's Pinterest. Your account is set up. You're basically a business on Pinterest after the 5 days. So that's sort of my for people who just want to get started. They don't really have a whole lot of time, but they know that they should be on Pinterest and they should be doing something. It's only about 30 minutes a day. You can commit that for 5 days. You're going to have a business profile set up and you're going to be ready to go. And then my other course is everything. It is a brain dump of everything in my business. It's all the strategies. It's got 100 pin templates, so you never have to worry about designing your own pins. You can just go in and pick templates that work for you. And then we update it with new Pinterest strategies constantly. I'm like, okay, we're not doing that anymore. We're doing this now. This is what's working. Because I obviously work with clients every day on the platform. So the course is just being updated a lot more regularly, letting people know what's working and what's not working anymore. So that one takes you a bit longer to go through. I always tell people to just binge it, and it won't take you forever, but it is a little bit more of a commitment, and it is for people who probably already have their business account but really 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 need to like up their strategy and actually start using Pinterest strategically. So that one's for people who are like, okay, I've created the business account, I know I'm supposed to be pinning, you've taught me that, but how can I actually maximize my reach and how can I maximize my strategy?
Fantastic. I'm so glad you have these two different levels. Um, are these available on Udemy or where can we get these courses?
So they're hosted on Thinkific, and I just have them on my website. So everything I've got a little like template shop where people can grab Pinterest templates, but then you've also got the courses there. Obviously linked up with Shopify so that I could be like staying in touch with the whole shopping on Pinterest end of things.
What was your website again?
It's Justin Jen, and the only thing is that Justin is spelled with a Y. Makes it girly,
Okay.
according to my mom. So justinjen.com.
Okay, and Jen, Jen, like short for Jennifer.
Jen.
Okay,
Yeah. Yep.
justinjen.com. Okay, great. And I'm wondering, so you said, and I said to the listeners at the beginning that Pinterest has allowed you to go to a new city every month. So I'd love to hear about some of these places you've traveled to by using Pinterest as your income source.
Well, I started the year in Mauritius, which was very, very exciting. So that was a new country for me. But other than that, I spent about 4 months this year in Thailand, just island hopping. And then I've spent this summer in between London, Geneva, Italy, and next I'm headed out to Turkey. So it's basically kind of a combination of island life, which is very important, high on my list of priorities. And we're over in Europe now to see like friends and family of my partner who lives here.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to stop right there because these places you listed are not, I would say, places. I know you're not a new digital nomad. You've been going for 8 years, but it seems to me that you are doing very well with Pinterest to go to a place like Geneva, for example, which is, I don't have the impression that it's a cheap or affordable
Oh,
place to
no,
go.
it's not. It's painful at times. It's painful when you're like, oh my gosh, why did I just spend that much money? Yeah,
Mauritius as
Switzerland's not an
well.
easy one. Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Mauritius.
Mauritius.
Okay, so it is expensive. So the next question I have for you then is how, if I want to get started working with Pinterest as my income source as a digital nomad, what would I expect to do for my clients? What kind of things are you doing for your clients?
So for my clients, I create about 80 to 100 new pins a month for them. So that's like I use Canva. So that means I'm in Canva every week making pins for their content. And then I'm scheduling it. There's a lot of sort of similar to what you do, I think, in like an Instagram strategy these days, with like trying to find the right hashtags to use. I'm always trying to find the right keywords to use. So there's a bit of research involved. But I would say the main bulk of it is focusing on creating those eye-catching pins, tracking like what's getting the best link clicks, tracking what products are getting the best sales, and then just like adjusting our strategy to maximize that. So I'm creating pins and I'm scheduling content every week for each of my clients. And then we adjust from there. We figure out what's working and what's not working and make new pins and use new keywords and schedule new things. So,
All right, amazing. So I have to ask, how did you get your first clients when you started? I know it's been about 6 years ago.
yeah. So I got my first client through, I was already working as a VA for her travel blog. So just a virtual assistant doing her travel blog stuff. And I've actually been really lucky because Pinterest is such a niche thing. It's been almost exclusively word of mouth. So for someone who wants to start out, my biggest piece of advice is to offer your clients a referral program. I give my clients literally $100 in their pocket. It doesn't matter. They can get it off an invoice, and I will literally just send them money if they get a client to sign a contract with me. So that has like fueled the word of mouth. So people are always like, oh, like where do you put yourself out there? How do you find clients? I'm like, oh no, my clients find me clients. I just do the job for them, and then I'll give them, a referral to refer me to other business owners or other people that they know that should be on Pinterest as well. And it works really well because they're your testimonial anyway, because you're getting the results for them. And then they sort of get something out of talking you up to their friends in business. So
That is fantastic. So do you have like a YouTube channel that you also use to promote? It sounds like you don't need to do that much by way of promotion because of this, it's this word of mouth and like you said, a niche industry like this.
yeah, I don't have a YouTube channel, and at the moment, my channels, my Instagram, my Pinterest, and my blog are all travel related. So stick, I test Pinterest strategies on my blog, but it's always related to travel content. I've always thought I should pivot more and like promote my Pinterest services, but I haven't quite gotten to the point where I've needed to. So I've always just kind of done my travel blog because that's what's fun for me.
Yeah, but I love that you're very generous with this referral program as well, because so many times I just see a free lead magnet, like here's a quick free course from me, or I'll give you $10 off of your next product, but
Yeah.
$100, that stands out from the crowd, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really it was my partner's idea, and he was like, just motivate people to bring you work. Like they'll they'll be more willing to promote you if they know that they're going to get something awesome out of it. So I was like, okay, I'll try it. And I tried it. And yeah, it's been consistent. Well, I've got one client who gets almost like $100 a month because I'm always getting a referral from her for something. It's amazing.
In these difficult financial times, to know that if you just get a
Yeah.
client for just it, you're going to get $100. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Much better than a
Yeah.
bank paying you interest.
Yeah. Much better. Yeah. Just got to bring some work in, and that's just a payout for you.
Okay, so I am curious, like about how many hours a week right now are you working for Pinterest, for your Pinterest clients?
So I actually time my work. I time my work like crazy. I'm one of those people who's in toggle, even if I'm just answering emails. I time everything. It really helps me stay focused. So I would say for Pinterest, I'm spending about 18 to 20 hours a week for the clients I currently have.
Okay, that's not so bad. I think we all know that
Yeah.
the Tim Ferriss 4 hour a week, 4 hour work week, that's not realistic.
I don't know like what kind of work you have to do to make a full on living for that, but it is not the work I do. I have to put the hours in.
Yeah, me too. I think most of us do. But that is fantastic with like 18 to 20 hours a week. And so I have to ask you, going forward, what is your strategy for future work with Pinterest and your clients? Do you want to keep it growing, or do you want to get people working more for you, helping with the Pinterest clients? What do you see going forward in 2022 and 23 beyond?
I want to expand more so that I'm also helping with the content creation side of things. I have a lot of experience as a blogger, so I want to create sort of bigger packages for my clients where I'm helping them with blog writing, and maybe I've got someone on my team who helps me with the Pinterest side of things because to sort of test myself and get into new waters. And everyone always talks about how we can't rely on these platforms to be around forever. If Pinterest disappeared tomorrow, I'm out of a job, completely out of a job. So I've always been sort of thinking, okay, if I help people with the blog writing as well, like, hey, I'll write your blogs, then I'll put your blogs on Pinterest. So that's kind of where I see myself like veering off into the next year or 2 years, and maybe getting a couple of people who help me on my end with the Pinterest side of things. I can send them through the course or teach them myself how to do like the day-to-day pinning, and then I can focus more on the graphic design, which I love, and the writing, which I love.
Do you have any plans for any additional courses or writing a book, an ebook or something about Pinterest?
I've thought about doing an ebook about Pinterest, but I don't have any plans at the moment for any other courses. Courses are hard to build. Courses take a lot of energy, and I feel like I'm always like, as soon as I go to get a new course idea, I'm like, oh shoot, but I need to update the Pinterest course, and then I veer off and update the Pinterest course, and then I'm exhausted from courses. So I've always thought about it, but I do find it that courses exhaust me a bit. So I've got my one and I keep my one going, but we'll see if anything changes in the future.
Okay, now I am curious, if Pinterest, like you said, if Pinterest were to go away tomorrow, you've said you would focus on helping people with blogs and writing and things like that. But what platform would you go to if you didn't have Pinterest? What would be the next choice?
I actually think TikTok, which I wouldn't have said a few months ago. A few months ago, I would have been like, TikTok's not for me. But I have started to lean more towards it versus Instagram because I love um, that people seem more real. People seem to like focus less on what's curated and what's edited, which is really appealing to me. So I think like I might find myself on TikTok if I was no longer to have Pinterest to rely on.
Okay, interesting. I myself haven't started TikTok because I think I'm just gonna go right down into a deep hole and never come back out again
Yeah,
doing dance trends.
definitely.
But I do know that it's taking over in so many ways. It's
Hmm.
definitely a different market, I think, than Pinterest at the moment. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
I can understand that. And so you had mentioned, I think you said one travel plan you have for the future, but where do you plan to go for the rest of the year? Any big travel plans?
Yeah, the biggest of my life, probably. My partner just got his visa to come to America. So we are going to travel across America in a camper van that my dad helped me convert during COVID. So I got stuck at home during the beginning of COVID, and me and my dad just built a camper van, like did the whole conversion. And it's been sitting in their driveway for almost 3 years now. So me and my partner are finally gonna go do like digital nomad van life and just literally go wherever we feel like and drive across America. So I'm very, very excited.
Oh, congratulations. That is amazing. I want to know about this Pinterest board that I'm sure you're going to create of this
Yeah,
journey.
definitely.
As long as it's public and not on the personal side, like you said, hide the private Pinterest pages.
No, that one will definitely be public because my travel blog is about to go a whole lot van life. So
Exciting. Where are you going to start?
yeah.
Do you already know where you're going to start and end?
Well, we're going out in October, so I know that's going to be like getting into cold. And my only problem is I'm not a huge fan of cold. So we're going to be sunbirds. We're just going to have to follow like probably the southern states, hang out in Arizona for a while. That's hot in the winter, and sort of spend our winter down there. And then as soon as it starts to like defrost, we'll head up to, we're really both excited to Northern California and the Pacific Northwest, Montana, but that it all not be happening until next year because it's way too cold.
Yes, yes. You have a timeline for this trip. How long do you plan to be in the van life?
We're basically on my partner is going to be working towards a green card, so we're going to be on that timeline. So
Oh,
in the
okay.
green card process, once he's there, he can't leave until he gets approved or gets a travel permit. So we're just going to see how it goes and like get our we're well into the immigration process, so this is just sort of the next step. And then that's sort of going to be our timeline. We're just going to see what happens.
Okay, so I'm curious, do you plan to continue being a digital nomad? It sounds like he's gonna be a nomad in the US, but is
Yeah.
the plan to live in the US more long term in the future?
No, probably the next 2 years, I'd say maximum. And then I think then we'll feel a bit like we need to leave for a while and go somewhere else. So I'd say I put us at 2 years max. I'd be surprised I mean, if we love it and that just turns into life, then that's cool too. But I do see us needing to go back over to Southeast Asia or hit Europe back up for a few years or something.
Okay, I really wish you all the luck. It's gonna be so much fun.
Thank
A
you.
dream achieved, like you said.
Yeah, thank you.
My last question for you before we go
Mhm.
today is, of all these 8 years of traveling, do you have a favorite place that you've traveled to?
I have a top three, if you don't mind. I
I
have a
don't
really hard time
mind.
with the one. Okay, so my top three are definitely Japan, Iceland, and the Seychelles.
Whoa, all of those are so
Yeah.
amazing and so different. I love it.
Yeah,
I love
they're all
it.
very different from each other. So that's why I'm like, I can't pick one because there were things I loved about each of them. But those are by far just the absolute coolest countries that I've been to. Really, really cool.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you, Justin, for sharing so much with us about Pinterest today and your amazing travel life. As I said before, have a great time on the road living that van life. And maybe we'll have to do
Thank
a
you.
follow up in the future and hear how it went.
Awesome. Well, it was so nice to meet with you and talk with you about everything. And good luck on your Pinterest journey. I can't wait.
Thank you. And so last question. I should put this out there. If people want to follow you, where can they go?
So definitely come over to Pinterest if you're on that platform. But I hang out mostly on Instagram. I'm gonna be on TikTok with the van life. So if we've got any TikTok fans, my username everywhere is Justin Jen. Keeps it sweet and simple. But the blog's Justin Jen, the username's Justin Jen on all three of those platforms.
All right. Thank you, listeners. Follow her. You can start living that van life vicariously.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.